Yeah, well, technical difficulties to start. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. We got our guest in the green room. But real quick, I just want to talk about my campaign. Edgar Allan Poe's Be Sprinkled with Scarlet, an illustrated narrative of some of Poe's greatest stories. It's live on Kickstarter right now. We're very close to goal now. We've already fully funded on Fund My Comic. So if you like horror, and if you like Edgar Allan Poe, and if you like amazing art by what somebody referred to as the murderer's row of artists, then you should stop by and back that. We've only got a couple of days left. It ends, I believe, noon on Saturday. So head on over there. The link's in the chat. And without further ado, we're going to bring in our guest, artist, inker, penciler, musician extraordinaire, Kevin Conrad.
Hey, that's the first time I've heard musician extraordinaire, but I'll take it. But I don't believe it, but I'll take it. Yeah. How's it going, Mark?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, man. I'm good.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
This is my third episode. So, and
nice.
I don't know if I count the first one because it was just me. So,
oh. Well, we'll call it the third because you know what they say, the third time's a charm. So hopefully I'll charm you guys. Yeah.
And we got a charming guest too, right? You know. All right. So I wanted to have you on just because I feel like we're friends.
Sure. Yeah. And I agree with that.
And I was thinking, and I was like, man, there's a lot of stuff I really don't know about this guy. So what I like to do on this show is just kind of go back to the beginning, talk about like where you got your interest in comics, when you were younger. Maybe it was when you were older. I don't know. But and then kind of move on from there. I have some questions and stuff, but mostly it's just kind of us chatting back and forth and see where it goes.
Yeah, sure. No problem. So you want me to start right at the beginning? Right? Yeah. So
I was born.
Yeah. Like I've told this story a number of times, but I'll try to make it interesting. I've been drawn all my life. I can honestly tell you, I do not remember not having a pencil in my hand, drawing. I was a kid. I am not a sports guy. There's not a single sport that I watch or pay attention to. The closest I ever came was like in the late 70s, early 80s, like with boxing, and that I enjoyed watching. But outside of that, all I did was draw. Therefore, I suck at sports. I can, I would be forced to play like in gym class, that kind of stuff, or my friends would, force me to play too. And I pretty much suck at them all. I understand them, like most of the rules with basketball, football, baseball, that type of stuff, but just it was never my thing. I was never interested in it. I could hit a baseball pretty well. I cannot catch a baseball to save my life. And I got the vitreous floaters in my eye to prove it when I was about 15 years old. And my buddy and I were shagging fly balls, at the school, and he hit a pop fly, and Also, the best way I can describe it to you is like imagine like you know Jerry Lewis or Jim Carrey, doing their rubber band act, trying to catch the ball and went right over the glove and hit me right in the square in the eye socket.
Oof.
Knocked me to my knees, and I've got these little floaters in my eye ever since. So I can see them. They're not. I don't see them all the time, but they're there. Yeah, so I suck at sports. I would try to rally my friends up for like drawing sessions. They'd they would they'd humor me until they saw that I was better than they were, and they would give up, that type of stuff. And again, I am not I'm not a master, like I'm not a master at anything, and but I do like to draw, and I have I've always had a certain ability, and my family encouraged me, my brother, my sister encouraged me, my teachers encouraged me, especially my art teachers. I pretty much, that's how it started. So I'm talking 5, 6 years old, that I remember drawing. I found a box of when my mom died back in 2000, and we were cleaning out her place. I found a box, and in that box were all these things that I drew for her when I was a little kid. She saved every freaking one of them, and and so that seeing some of that stuff, and for whatever stupid reason, I had the presence of mind, even as a 7-year-old, to date everything that I did,
Wow.
and I was like, damn, I drew that and I was 7. That's pretty crazy, So I was, yeah. So that's pretty much it. And again, I am not a master of anything, so I'm not trying to make anybody feel like I'm all full of myself, because I'm my worst critic. I'm not. Every time I draw something, when I feel it's finished, I look at it and I go, that sucks. So something always bothers me about everything I draw. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, I think that's maybe part of being an artist, because if that's not the case, then you don't continue to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the
Yeah.
way with anybody that's creative. It's just like go back and you could spend eternity, going back and fixing things, so.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
So the drawing started before comics entered your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely did. As a kid, I was always into the superhero thing, as far as like the Saturday morning cartoons, the old school Spider-Man the Batman '66, live action series, the I was into all that as a child, but I didn't start getting into, I want to say, maybe 10 years old or 11 years old. My closest and oldest friend, he lived 2 doors down from me. And ironically, he lives about 3/4 of a mile away from me now. Um, and we're still close. He's like a brother to me. And we just started collecting comics. We just like sort of discovered comics. His older brother was like 10, 14 years old. Oh, yeah, he was about 14 years older than him. Had a stash of comics, and I'm talking golden age, and they were in horrible, horrible shape. They were all like kept in boxes in the basement, but that's really where the interest in collecting comics and superheroes, started for me. And we just started drawing together at that time, just at the kitchen table, and like copying covers and that kind of thing. He, he got better as he got older, but he didn't, he didn't. What's the word I'm looking for? He didn't have I guess, the initial talent. Anybody can learn how to draw, and train their eye and train their hands, some degree. But I still believe you got to have something like born into you too, that a certain amount of talent or level of talent that at a young age that maybe sparks that, where you continue to draw and you continue to grow,
Yeah,
but
sure.
that's it. So we started drawing, man, and I got notebooks of this stuff, I kept it all, I still have it all. And some of the stuff I look back at, and again, like I look at the age I drew that, and even though like a lot of that stuff was copying other artists out of comic books and stuff, it was like, you know, damn, that was really still pretty, for a 13-year-old kid to draw, and it's like it's pretty damn accurate, from my recollection of what the cover was. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's
Do you
pretty much where it all started for me. Yeah.
yeah. Do you remember the first comic you read or no?
Oh man, that's a hard one, because before I actually started collecting, like buying comics, we'd go to the local, we'd take our bikes and go down to the local confectionery store in Schenectady. It was called Danny's Confectionery. It literally had a soda fountain, in the what do you, lack of a better term right now, a bar. We'd sit at the round stools and
Yeah.
order an old fashioned soda, that kind of thing. They had the spinner racks. They had you know, the wall of comics. This is pre, you know, comic book stores, and uh, so I wish I could tell you that I remember what my first comic book that I bought was, but I don't remember. But I do remember drawing an old issue, a cover, copying an old cover of an Incredible Hulk that I clearly had. And this is before I kind of like rediscovered it with my buddy, and I still have that. And it's just like, Hulk is there, wide stance. His one arm is up like and he's got the leader in his other hand, and he's up, and he's like ready to swat the leader. And I drew everything. I drew the logo. I drew it all. I colored it with felt tip markers, and I got it. I got it in a book somewhere.
That's awesome.
And that was probably pretty close to the first comic book I probably owned and probably read, at that time. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I people ask me that all the time, and I'm just like, I just remember as a kid, and 6, 7, 8 years old, whatever. I always had comics. They're always
Yeah.
around. My
Yeah.
mom, for whatever reason, decided that was something that she didn't mind me doing, and I was reading, and she knew I liked them, and I always had comics. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's, it's a great way to pass the time, read and, read them, draw out of them and wait for the next issue to come out, and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah, I started out and I was like, I love the comics, but for whatever reason, I did read, my share of books and stuff too. And early on, I'm like, I want to be a writer. And that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to be a writer. And as I got a little older, I loved looking at the comic art. I'm like, I want to be an artist, and
yeah.
I
Yeah.
started, and I went to art class and I did terrible. And, I guess I did what you would do at that age or whatever. And, so I'm like, well, I'm not this good at art. Like I could do some of what you're talking about where you're kind of like copy what other people are doing and stuff. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll be a colorist. I could do that, since I can't seem to be able to draw. And then I realized I was colorblind. So I was like, okay, well,
Oh,
that's not going to work either. So,
yeah.
so that was the end of the artist dream anyway. But yeah, writing was always like you said, you don't remember a time when you weren't drawing. And I remember always wanting to write my own stories, creating my own comics. And then I can remember, I don't know how old I was now, but one of the things I remember is my mom buying me a typewriter, and I was just like, man, I'm a writer now,
Use the one finger to type back then, or what we do?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's, that's how you did it back then. But
Yeah.
so when did you decide that this was, this was something you wanted to do like for a career or?
Man, I remember a specific day, and I remember the drawing too. It was a Black Knight on this horse, with his wings spread out, And again, it was a cover off of one of the comics that was, and I remember drawing that, and I was sitting at my dining room table, and I know the home we were in, and I wasn't, I we didn't live there past my 12th birthday, so it was either 12 or before, where my mom's sitting on the opposite side of the table, and I pick it up, and what do you think, Mom? And she goes, "Oh, that's great," and I just remember saying, "I'm going to work for Marvel, one day." My goal was to draw for Marvel. I says, "I'm going to draw for Marvel one day." And she was like, "That's great, honey, and I want you to be able to do that." She was very talented too. She was an artist that I guess a frustrated artist because she was a secretary at GE. So they used to have her do stuff all the time, and she would whip out these fashion illustrations that were crazy good. And so she would support. My parents supported me in that thing, but they always said, always have a backup plan. We want you to succeed at that, but you know, go to college and blah blah blah. And that kind of, by the time that I got that age, I knew, for sure that I'm gonna be in the field of art some way somehow in whatever capacity that I can. And I always wanted it to be comics up until I graduated college. I went just to a 2 year. It was a junior college of Albany out here in New York, and I got my associate's degree, what they called an applied science, but it was a graphic arts program, an illustration program, and and I had to take English, and I had to take some other sciences and that kind of stuff like that. But it was all studio classes, the 6 hour studio classes, and that college did not require a portfolio interview, to get in. It was just based on your whatever you want to call it from high school, your SATs and all that kind of crap like that, right?
Transcript, yeah.
Yeah, and I had already been accepted to two other legit art schools. One was junior or School of Visual Arts, and I chickened out, man. What's that?
Sorry, I just gotta. Can you see this? Can you see the comments?
No.
It's from
Hey guys, what you are, Kevin? I do not get paid. Oh, nice, man. Thank you. Thank you so much, man.
I get paid.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I'm on the phone here, so I apologize. What's the name? Is it
It's Fabrizio ILO.
Fabrizio, man? Thank you for that. That's a hard. I'm having a hard time reading on my phone because I don't have a camera on my PC downstairs. But that's my next goal. If I'm going to do more of these.
Anyway, sorry to derail you there.
No, that's fine. So yeah, School of Visual Arts, and I chickened out. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to leave Schenectady. I didn't want to go to the big city. I was afraid. I was a chicken shit. And the other school that I got accepted to, and I was geared up to go, was somewhere out in the north. It was like Lake Placid School of Arts or something like that. And I was accepted and getting ready to pay the tuition, and then I got word, they sent me a letter, that they're closing their doors because they only accepted something like 80 students, if I remember correctly. So now the school that I was going to go to and I was looking forward to going to closes, and now I'm like, I got to find somewhere to go in September. This is just a few months before, and that's why I ended up going to JCA. And so what I realized when I got there, I didn't need a portfolio interview, and there was some very talented students. I'm not gonna say there wasn't, because there was, but the majority of the kids I felt were taking that because it's like they didn't know what they wanted to do with themselves, and it was like, I'll take art. That's easy. That kind of thing, and it's not. And then when when I saw the work of the majority of these people, I was like, wow, this is like, that sort of disappointed me in a little bit. But every one of my instructors kind of put me in a different I don't want to say a different class, but like what I mean by that is like a lot of the projects I would do the same projects. Some of them were more advanced, and virtually every one of my instructors said, you know, your competition is me. Like your my instructors were my competition. That's how they put it to me. And and that's how we want you to grow. And so they didn't really necessarily teach me how to draw. Those light drawing classes, all that kind of stuff like that. But what that school did for me was just sort of like the business side and setting up a building a portfolio. And I graduated in '83, and I had a portfolio, and I just started pounding the pavement locally, to all the advertising agencies, and I got work immediately. Yeah, immediately I started getting work, and then I started making money. So my dream of working for comics, I sort of put on the back burner because I'm doing pretty well, with the commercial art field, and I did that for like 10 years, and until I finally broke into comics.
Nice.
Yeah,
I completely identify with what you said earlier too, because college wise, so I have a 2-year degree in business,
yeah,
which honestly I took because I had taken business in high school. It came easy to me, so that was the only reason I took it. But when I was graduating high school, I got accepted to purchase because when I was in my last like 2 or 3 years of high school, I wanted to be a filmmaker, and that was my passion at that time. And I got accepted to purchase college, which is in uh, New York City.
yeah, yeah,
And I'm just like, I'm saying, same thing. I'm just like, there's no way in hell I'm going to New York City.
yeah,
And so that's
yeah.
that's what happens.
Yeah, it's I'm a homeboy, a local boy. I still live in the same county that I grew. I grew up in Schenectady, but I still live in Schenectady County. All these years later, it's like can't seem to get the hell out of here. And I don't really want to. My roots are so deep here. So
Yeah,
one day maybe, but yeah,
I hear you.
I do like visiting. I do like visiting places though.
Yeah,
So the comic convention sort of helped
you
me out
do.
in that respect.
Seems like you do get around. I watch you on Instagram, and it's like
Yeah.
you're everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. Last year was a banner year for me, man. I think probably about somewhere in the neighborhood of the comic conventions, maybe somewhere between 15 and 20 of them. And there was 1 or 2 months where I didn't have a free weekend, and uh, and I'm not complaining. It was by choice, that I was able to do that, and it was they're a blast. It's exhausting, the travel to the things and stuff like that. But once you're there, it's you get to you know talk to the fans and hang out with your peers and see people you haven't seen in a long time. So it's a good time. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and that's I don't know. I mean, you would know from that side of the table, but like when I go to shows, like for most of my life, I spent like I normally at a convention I spend probably, you know, 75% of my time in Artist Alley, you
yeah,
know, talking to creators, looking at stuff, buying art. I mean, it's just I just love it. And then I'll go look for some comics and stuff too. But to me, it's just all about the art. I say I collect art and I collect stories. I just love talking to people about what they
yeah,
do, how they do it, and
yeah,
just just different things. It's awesome. But do you see that? Do you
yeah.
see a lot of people like that, or is it just mostly like they stop by, buy something, and you don't see them again?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I have a lot of repeat, you know, customers, and and that I can call friends too. You, for instance, that's where we met. Is you came to my table,
Yep.
so
Yep.
that I remember. And but I do see a lot of that. A lot of you know, a lot of them do like to kind of, just like like we were doing right now. They'll stand at the other side of the table. A lot of times, I usually am busy drawing something or something like that, but I always try to, you know, be attentive to who's there if they want to chat. And then I'll just say, look, if you don't mind, while we're chatting, I have to work on this commission because the guys are waiting for it. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it all works out. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Good time. Good time.
yeah.
All right. So, I think, so at what point does Kiss get into the mix here?
Ah, um, so my bedroom walls were from floor to ceiling, and parts of the ceiling were covered with Marvel superhero posters growing up as a kid. Marvel, not DC. I was never a big DC fan. I always appreciated Batman, and you know, you know, of course, Superman, but Swamp Thing. I don't know what it was about DC Comics, but they always seemed to me to be a little bit more uh, unbelievable. Versus Marvel. If that's I mean, you're talking about men and women in tights
Yeah.
and these extraordinary scenarios and stuff like that. But I don't know. The stories to me seem to be a little bit more, and the care mainly. I'm going to take that back. The characters seem to be a little bit more believable.
Uh-oh. You there? I think we lost him. You're frozen. All right. Well, while Kevin gets that sorted out. Oh, looks like he's coming back. What's going on, Jim? Yeah, he's frozen, and not in a good way. I don't know if there's a good way to be frozen, but oh man, I don't know if I wanted to call you Jim or not. I don't want to dox you or anything. All right. Well, he works on that. Um, let's see. Let's play the trailer. All right. Looks like Kevin's back. Maybe? Nope. I thought he was. All right. All right. Well, while I'm sitting here, so if you backed the Fund My Comic, you're getting one of these cards with art by Elliot Rodriguez. And on the Kickstarter, you can get not only the book, you can get various covers, but you can also get some sketch cards. This is Jim Whiting, who is in the chat right now. These are one of a kind. You can pick those up on there as an add-on. You got some of those left. And then our guest, who hopefully will be back soon, you can pick up a sketch card by him. You can pick whatever character you want, and he will draw it. Here's a couple of examples of ones he's done for me. Here's a Peter Criss. Here's an Eric Carr. And Alice Cooper. And he'll do them black, white, and he'll add color, if a little bit of color if it needs some color. It'll look like the back of the sketch card looks like that. So it has the character's name, artist, signature, the date, all that on it. So so I told Kevin one of the rules of coming on the show was there was three things. One is no politics, no drama, and no F-bombs. And I told him, I texted him and told him he froze, and he said F-bomb. So, but he wasn't on the show, so that's good. All right. Well, let's go over to the campaign. So close to goal. And Saturday, I will have what I'm calling the closeout / post-mortem of Kickstarter. So we'll see. Hopefully we get to goal by then. But we're very, very close. All right. As you can see, we're at 89% of goal. Yeah, he was on his phone. Maybe his phone overheated. I don't know. You just never know. I always say technology is great right up until it doesn't work. You can call me Ray, or you can call me Jay, right? All right. So I'll just run through it quick here. So Dr. Mask takes you through on a journey through Edgar Allan Poe's stories. He introduces you to the stories, he closes out the stories, and he appears in every piece of art throughout the book. This is the original cover for Midnight number 1 from 1957. That's what the homage cover is based on. So that is sorry. This one's by Greg Murray and Dan Kemp did the colors for it. And then I forgot to mention up here, this is Ricardo Jaime who did the original. There's also a virgin cover of this available on the campaign as well. This particular, the homage cover, you can get the homage cover or you can get the homage cover newsprint version. So this is the cover of the newsprint with the white logo. Here's some of the interiors. That's kind of what it's going to look like. This is Preston Acevedo. This is Brian Ball or Bow. I really have to ask him how to say his name. I say Bow because John's long box says Bow. So, oh, looks like Kevin's back. All right, 1 second. Anyway, get out there and grab something nice. We got 4 different different covers. There's an all-in-one bundle where you can get all 4. You can get a T-shirt. This is a Christian Rossi T-shirt. Right here is Kevin's, part of Kevin's piece, which we will talk about a little bit later. And yeah, all kinds of great stuff. You can get that Kevin Conrad sketch card right there. And you can also, like I said, the Jim Whiting ones are available as add-ons. So you have to go to the add-on section there. But anyway, let's get back to the cool part of the show. Close that. And he's back.
I am so sorry. I don't know what the hell. I mean, my Wi-Fi seems to be fine. I got 600, 600 down. It's
maybe it's
I restarted my phone.
Did your phone overheat or anything? Was it hot or?
No, it's a brand new phone too, and I restarted it. So
okay.
it's not hot. It's not hot. But anyway.
Yeah.
I always say. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I always say technology is great right up until when it doesn't work, so.
Yeah, right. I know it.
But that's all right. I got to show off some cool sketch cards and talk about the campaign. So
that's cool.
So we were just talking about where KISS came in. And you're talking about having posters all over your wall of comics.
Yes. Yeah. So same buddy that, I sat at his kitchen table and drew all the time. I was 14 in 1975, and I go to his house and he says, "Check this out." And he pulls out Kiss Alive that he found. Never heard of the band before, and I go, "What in the hell is that, man?" Looking at the cover on that, man, it's like, you grow up, loving comics, and you see this cover with these look like superheroes, man, and badass looking, quartet there on that cover. There's the flames and all that kind of good stuff, and and he puts it on, and it's like I was just as hooked with the image as I was with the music when I heard that album. I never heard him before that album, and that to this day is, to me, it's a benchmark live album, out there for just about anybody. And that's where my my passion sort of shifted, and the superhero stuff slowly started coming off my walls as I was getting, KISS stuff. And here I am, 64 years old. And if I pan this camera around, I will. Let's do it. This is it's one of my drum kits, right? And so you can see, just a bunch of stuff there, right? Go this way. And it's like I'm reliving my youth, right?
Yeah.
So
keeps you.
Yeah. I'm a 14-year-old at heart, and so the eventuality was my entire room was now covered in KISS posters, and so from 1975, I saw them live for the very first time. I was 16 years old, or 1978, Springfield Civic Center. I remember it being cold. It had to be January. Too young to drive as far as having a license. And my friend convinced his mother to drive us to the show. So it was me, my friend, and two other kids. And we told her we had a ride back to Springfield Center. So this was the Alive 2. So it had to be 78. This was the Alive 2 tour, which is pretty much the same thing as the Love Gun tour. And she drops us off and she leaves, and we're having a good old time at the concert, right? And after the show, we're milling around. It's like, well, what do we do now? I don't know what we were thinking, if we thought that there was somebody that was going to give us, maybe somebody said something to, I can't imagine just us. I mean, we're kids, but I cannot imagine us saying, let's just let her leave and then we'll call her back. It's an hour 45-minute drive. from Schenectady to Springfield, and she just got home, and my buddy called her, and he was pissed. She had to drive all the way back to get us, and but it was worth every minute of that, man. That was so yeah. That was my very first concert ever, and it was my very first Kiss concert ever. And holy shit, that was like, and that was general admission, so the whole floor was open, and we worked our way right up to the rail, and or whatever, seeming like we were like 10 feet away from like Gene Simmons, between Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley, and it was crazy. It was just a crazy, crazy um, experience, and so I've seen every tour since, you know, uh, that was local or within driving down. I was old enough to drive. I've been to Worcester to go see him. I've been to, places out, a little north of New York City and stuff like that too, Springfield and stuff. But, and here locally too, at Glens Falls Civic Center first, and then what's now the MVP Arena, which was the Knickerbocker when it first opened and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, man. I've been to a lot of Kiss concerts, tour I saw 3 times. Other than that, every other tour was just the one, the one visit. But it was great, and it was I supported every incarnation of the band. I loved the '80s, '90s, non makeup era. Clearly, like, as you haven't got there yet, but I'm a huge Eric Carr fan, and I'm a huge Peter Criss fan. So just one of he was my original drumming, I guess hero, but or influence, I should say. And but yeah, man, it's been a lifelong obsession. I've had collections that I've traded for back in the day before the internet, for VHS tapes of Kiss. I have a box of VHS tapes of Kiss live Kiss shows that I traded all my collectibles back in the day to this. I used to get this pamphlet. I think it was called the Kiss Museum at the time. Remember the guy's name, Peter Arquette. He's still around. Everything I had, man, I traded to that guy for these things because I wanted every show that I could find, live show. And guess what? Now they're all on YouTube. all those bootleg tapes that I have. So big regret there, but it is what it is. I mean, that's what I wanted at the time. It wasn't about the clay. And I got a bunch of I spun around. You say it's mostly posters. There's nothing in this room that's worth a whole lot of money. You know what I mean? Per se, it's just all stuff that's I hold dear. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
yeah,
100%. Yeah. That's that. I'm just, you always hear about Alive being like such a pinnacle album for Kiss, and
oh yeah,
and
pardon my
and
thoughts.
when you're telling your story, I'm like, this is so similar. Like I remember, I remember I was like 8 years old. A guy from school let me borrow Kiss Alive, and I
Yeah,
took it home and played it, and I was just like you said, it's superheroes, but it's music, and you're just like,
yeah, yeah,
it's just like,
yeah. Mine thoroughly blown, man, for sure. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
I know it.
I ended up, I had to return the record, but that the first album I ever got for myself, like I don't think I actually paid for it. My mom probably paid for it at the time since I was so young, but what was Kiss's first album, and that was
Yeah,
and then from there it was just like Kiss everything, so yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Same, man. I mean, I went back and collected, and bought the first 3 albums. I bought the, which I didn't even know that, I just happened to see it in Two Guys. It was, the originals, which was the the first three albums packaged together, like with
Right.
a with a booklet and stuff like that. Still have the original. I still have that. I still have that all. Same one that it's 50 years old. It's sitting in my record. My record collection. So, but the very first one. What does that say? What's that comment? Just ignoring.
Well,
But
I just had a shout out. This is my friend Matt, who me and him have been going to Kiss shows since '83. So
okay, yeah, okay, nice.
so you met him at Out of Print Comics when you did the signing there.
I did that was during COVID. That was crazy. Yeah. Oh, Matt. Hi, Matt. It's good to see you on board here. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wouldn't have been able to do half of the stuff I did without him, and he was the driver too.
Yeah.
And someday, I'll tell you about my first Kiss show because that was an experience too.
Oh yeah, I'd love to hear it. Yeah. But this is about me tonight. All right.
That's right.
Right.
So back to the comics. So you're doing graphic design. You're making buckets full of money. What happens where you're like, hey, I'm gonna.
All right.
Maybe not buckets.
So,
okay.
Yeah, no, I was making a respectable income. You know what I mean? It was more than you can make at McDonald's, let's say. Okay,
Right.
so that type of thing. So it was pretty lucrative for me at the time. I was successful in the area, and I did some national work too through these advertising agencies, but most of it was local work, and most of it was not. I wanted to be the next, Bernie Fuchs, and if you don't, look him up. It's Fuchs, I believe. There might be an E in there, but I don't think there is. He was an illustrator. He did a lot of beautiful, like gouache paintings, and I wanted to be that guy. And I did a lot of that stuff in college, and tried my hand at it with a couple projects, paid projects, and I'm not a painter. I tried my best, and if I kept with it, maybe, so, but anyway, so a lot of the stuff that I got commercial wise was pretty dry stuff. One of my big bread and butter accounts back in the day was Price Chopper. And I would illustrate their weekly flyers, all the food. A lot of it was black and white. A lot of, and there was also a color section, so I'd have to render all this stuff in color. And I'm talking about cans and and lettering and all this crazy stuff. And every once in a while, I'd get a real kind of cool creative thing during holidays, where I was actually able to get creative with people involved in it, and that kind of stuff. That was a very well-paying gig for me. It was hard to turn the money down. I did a lot of technical drawing for Troy Built manufacturing, which made lawnmowers, rototillers, all that kind of stuff, cutaway views, all that kind of stuff. Not what I went into commercial art for, but again, you take what you can to pay the bills. And again, I had some cool creative stuff along the way. So that all being said, how I got into comics, I've told the story before, and I'll tell it again. So in junior high school, I always used to hear of another dude that drew comics, and they said, "Man, there's this other guy in here that draws just like you," and and they tell me his name. I go, I don't know, and it turns out he was a year younger than me. So he was like, when I was in 8th grade, he was in 7th grade, and in 9th grade, he was in 8th. So I never physically met him. Only heard about this guy in junior high school. So come 11th grade in high school, which would be his 10th, and my high school was 10th, 11th, and 12th. We're in the same art class together, and then we meet for the first time. You're that guy that I almost slipped there, Mark. I almost slipped. I stopped myself. you're that guy that, and yeah, and so we became, really fast friends. And um, I was just learning really how to play the drums. He played guitar. He drew. Now, to be fair, to be honest, this guy could draw rings around me, man. He was super, super talented. And so our goal was to get into Marvel Comics pencilers, and we both would take the train down to New York City when they were in New York City, Park Avenue, I believe it was, when Marvel's on Park Ave. I think it was Park Ave. And we would literally go to the offices and bring our samples. And a lot, nearly every time that period of time that we would go down together. This is before I was even in college. So I took 2 years off after high school before I started that 2 year degree. So I graduated college at 1983. I was 21 going on 22 that summer. So with a 2 year degree. So I took 2 years off because we were going to be rock stars. So we were doing the band thing too, But we were doing we were taking the train down. I do remember one occasion where we went down and we got to know, it was almost like, I think we got to know the receptionist, and she just said, hang on a second, and she disappears. She comes back and with Jim Shooter,
Nice.
and she had brought the samples. She had brought the samples in and to him, and he comes back out with the samples. And it was like, honestly, probably a 2 minute conversation. And what I remember about that conversation, that there was another buddy with us too that went down too, who's a very talented artist now, but he doesn't do comics. And we all brought our samples in. And the thing I took away from that the most, the thing that I remember the most about what he said at that time was, if I could put the three of you together, I'd have one good artist. you know, and I'm paraphrasing. It might not have been those exact words, but that's how I recall it. You know what I mean? So what ended up happening from that point was I graduated college, I should say, and I started getting work. So my desire kind of waned to get so I'm making money.
Right.
Meanwhile, my other buddy is continuing going down, bringing samples down, time after time, and he finally breaks in. He breaks in as a penciler at Marvel, and I don't know how long went by before. I don't remember when he actually broke into what year it was, but he breaks into comics, and then he's doing really, really well. He started out on some, I guess mid-level books or something like that, and then he gets on X-Force. He takes over for Ron Liefeld, and he's seeing some really, crazy, money, crazy royalties, and that kind of thing. And it's like, man, I want a piece of this. So now I'm in. By this time, I'm doing commercial art for 10 years, and I says, I want a piece of this some way, some. So the best thing, or the easiest thing for me to do at that period of time was he gave me like 3 or 4 full-size Xerox copies of his pencils. And I took those damn things, and I had my drafting table. I built a light box into it, and I light boxed those 3 or 4 pages, inked them over his pencils, through Bristol board, and when I finished them, he ended up putting them in his FedEx box, to his editor. So the next day, when his editor got the package, his editor calls him and says, "Hey, I got your package." He goes, "Who inked these pages? Did you ink these pages?" He goes, "No, my buddy Kevin did." And it was literally, this was it. And his words were, "Does he want a job?" Just like that. So my full intent was to be a penciler for Marvel. I got in as an inker, and you know, boy, did I suck over everybody, but my buddy at that time because he could draw. Like I said, this guy drew rings around me, even in high school. That kind of thing. Super talented, and but I cut my teeth. Filling in on pages over him on X Force, and then he left. He eventually left to go to Spawn. I think by now you probably figured out what I'm talking about. And I get on X Force as a full time book with Tony Daniel at that point. Now this is pretty much my first foray into inking somebody other than my buddy Greg. And Tony's young. He was like 23 or 24 at the time. I'm 35, 36, somewhere around there,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just as green, as a 36-year-old, as an inker, I'm just as green and Tony's pencils were great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not discounting that, but it's just a different animal when you're inking somebody else and you don't have the knowledge base yet. That you would that you get over time, the experience, over working over other people, and that kind of thing. And so I did the book full time, and I did like maybe 2 issues, maybe 3 issues, and maybe 2.5. I don't recall really. And I got let go off the book, and because my inks really weren't that great. Although fans come up to me with those books and say they love them and that kind of stuff. But I know the deal. I know the real deal. I was graded, and it was. I don't blame Bob, my editor, Bob Harris, for letting me go because he did me a favor because I didn't get let go from Marvel. I got let go from that book, and I started. I just hit up all the other. I started getting work. I did more work over more pencilers in probably a 4-month period of time. And I grew like crazy in those 4 months as an inker, and while I'm doing that, I also had the good fortune, besides having Greg live in the same town as me, and I would go over to his house and work for a day, like every week. And with his knowledge, him sort of like taking me under his wing and showing me stuff, and he hooked me up with Art T. Bear, who is a very well established inker. He was at Marvel at the time doing X-Men and all that kind of. This man did not know me from Adam. He did not have to do this, but this guy, was said, Greg asked him if, hey, would you mind giving him some pointers? And he said, yeah, absolutely. So we actually became, good friends, Art and I. And, but I would literally fax him, I would Xerox it, copy it, fax him, samples of my inks, and he would critique them. And we'd be on the phone for hours, and he gave me so many pointers. So between all that and working on all these people, then they gave me another shot at X Force over Tony, and then that was it. And then we were like the team, at that point, and so that was great. Then Todd needed a team for Spawn Blood Feud, and he needed an anchor, I should say, for Spawn Blood Feud because he had somebody else in mind, a guy called Brad Gorby. He was really talented, and really don't understand. I don't know really why he didn't get the gig, but I did a few sample pieces over them, and I still have them. I look at those and go, damn, they're really pretty good. It's really pretty good stuff. I mean, not talking about my inks, I'm talking about his pencils. It's good stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think we did make a pretty decent team, but something, I don't know what it was, but so Todd was looking for an inker, and Greg suggested me. So once again, I got in. Now, clearly, a lot of, it's not what you know. I just proved that point. It's who you know. But in some cases, but what happens is if you, and I'm a prime example of that. If you can't if you can't, friggin' stay in the kitchen, and you're going to get kicked out. And that's what happened to me, with X Force. So you got to prove yourself. You got to prove your worth, your value, and so, and that's the same thing, with Todd. So Todd took me on just by Greg's word alone, and then for whatever reason he didn't want to use Brad. He was wondering. He asked if there was someone else, I had mine, and I suggested Tony. Tony came aboard, and the rest again is history, man. It's all there in the history books. And Tony is, he's crazy, crazy good now. And he's so good, and and so much success, and I'm so happy for him. That he's achieved the success that he's had. And so it was a crazy ride. It really was. So that's my story, and I will never deviate from that. I mean, I give credit to who I have to give credit to, and I'll always be grateful to all these people. And I'm grateful for Bob Harris firing me, because who knows what happened? I don't know what happened. I would have just gone stale and then faded away at that period of time. You know what I mean? So
it's you say it's who but I think who gets you in the door, but what keeps you there. So
that's what I was getting at by you have to be able to just because somebody's word gets you in, it doesn't mean that you're going to stay there. You have to prove yourself. So
I mean, you talked about getting let go from the book and then being able to do all these other artists pencils. I mean, that I'm thinking that once you get hired, I mean, and I don't know the business well enough, but I was thinking once you get put on a book, you're probably on it for a while, and so you're with that same penciler for the most of the ride.
That's the goal. That was always my goal. And Tony and I, there was a period there where that's what we wanted. We wanted to be the next, Jim Lee, Scott Williams, type thing, for that thing, whether or not we achieve that, I don't know. I mean, I think, we created some really good stuff together over the course of the years, and, with his creator own projects as well, and, Teen Titans, we, tried some different things ink wise when I was on that book with him. So, but I agree.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, from well, I guess not directly from there, but when and how does the whole Psycho Circus
okay. Right. Did you already ask me that? And I sort of maybe. Well, anyway, so what happens there is now this wasn't by Greg's suggestion, but Todd, I don't recall because I've done a lot of work. I started out at Marvel, but most of my work was with Image and DC Comics. And ironically, I just got done. I wasn't trashing DC, but I was always a Marvel boy.
You were a DC guy.
but DC really treated me very, very well. And I got a lot of work from them. And I believe, once the Spawn Blood Feud, the Spawn the Dark Ages, and the regular thing sort of ran its course for me, there was nothing else in the camp for me, So, I was getting a lot of work. I believe I was working for DC at the time, and Todd asked Greg to ask me if I'd be interested in inking this Kiss project, that was coming up. So I've been really, really fortunate, man, with things like with Kiss, just weird stuff that's happened to me in the past. Like with getting to meet the band and winning contests and really crazy things. And this was the icing on the cake for me. And it was like, well, shit, oh yes, of course, yes, 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 and so months go by, months with and because it's a franchise book, there's a lot of legalities that got to be, but but from this point, like, once Todd got the word I was interested, I had conversations with Todd about the book, you know, and he would just give me updates every once in a while, saying, yeah, just I haven't forgotten about you. It'll be, it looks like it's going to be another month or so, or 2 months or whatever, before things get rolling. And and so um, so then it happened, right? So the book happens, but the caveat with that book, like, for from an artist standpoint, whether you're a penciler or an inker, the penciler and the inker own the artwork, the physical artwork.
Mhm.
Artwork comes back, whether it's a unspoken thing between the comic company and the artist, where we're giving this to you, but in actuality, the comic company might think, we own this, but we're going to give this to you. Yeah, that kind of. I really don't know, but all I know is my entire time in comics, I got 1/3 of the art, and the penciler got 2/3 of the art back.
Yep.
And when you're inking over the actual physical pencils, it happens that way. So I had a conversation with Todd before that book was. He goes, okay, so everything's a go. Todd tells me, he goes, but the only way this book is going to happen is if Gene Simmons owns the artwork. And so we got to come. Yeah. So we got to come up with a figure, to give him as a buyout for your pages, and as a buyout for Angel's pages. At the time, it was Angel. Angel and I started that book roughly the first half of the run, and so we came up with a number. I don't know what Angel's number was. I don't know if it was more than mine. I don't, but so I would get 2 checks, for every issue. Put it this way: I would get paid for the 24 pages of physically doing the art, like in increments, I believe, if I remember, it's been a long time now. And then I would get paid by separate check, still paid by TMP, but a separate check for the buyout of the pages. So, and that's how that book came to be. If that wasn't going to be the case, then that book never would have happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I got to ask this: you don't know what Angel's numbers were, but
I don't.
Did you pad it because you knew who was buying it, or?
No, because the deal was struck with Todd, and Todd was like, look at yeah, Gene Simmons, he's got money, but
be reasonable.
we want to make this book happen. We don't want to rape the guy either, So come up with a reasonable, and I just we hammered it out, and he said, yeah, that's a fair price,
Okay.
As long as you feel like you're not getting ripped off, and it's a fair price, for him as well. So and maybe Angels was the same. I don't know, but it might not have been. So that's that's how that book again came to be, and it was a dream come true for me, right? But it came at the absolute worst time of my life, And what I mean by that was, my first marriage broke up, right? I had a 2.5-year-old son with that marriage. Here I am in this monster house that we built together, and now I'm there by myself. I had my 2 dogs, thank God, and my son and my ex are living down the road from me, a couple miles down the road from me now, and I was in a very, very dark place at that time. When those first pages rolled in, I was in a very, very dark place, and I don't mean suicidal. I just mean a super, super depression. My life. I got all this going for me, but my personal life is in shambles, and and to top it all off, you know, these pages from Angel were incredibly daunting to look at. Insanely detailed stuff. So here I am curled up in a fetal position on the floor, with my dogs, and I get two calls actually. Tony and I we talk still regularly, and I got two calls, two conversations, I should say, one with Tony Daniel and one with Brian Haberlin. Brian Haberlin, who's coloring the book, is calling me saying, "Where the hell are the pages?" Right? And so and I'm blubbering to him on the phone what's going on with my life, and he's just like, and he was sympathetic, but it's like,
Business is
dude, you got
busy.
to put, yeah, you got to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. No woman is worth it,
Yeah.
the pain you're going through and stuff like that. Whatever else you might have said, you got too much talent. Don't let this book go to the waste. This was your dream. Get off your ass and start inking.
Yeah.
Kind of like a drill sergeant kind of thing. You know what I mean? And then a conversation that I had with Tony, I remember his, um, my entire life, my young adult life through my adult life to this day, I work out regularly. Regularly, it's like never to be an Arnold Schwarzenegger, but just always at the gym. Doing something, and I had stopped everything. At that period of time, like when my son was born, is like talk about life changing experience, man. I stopped going to not because of depression, but I stopped going to the gym because I was so overwhelmed with having this newborn baby in the house. You know what I mean? And the care that took with that. So I didn't work. I didn't work out for like 2 years. At that period, and here I am on the floor, and I'm crying to Tony about my life and blah blah blah. Blah, and he's like, the advice that he gave me was something to the like is like, what do you like to do besides draw, besides ink, which is now your livelihood? What else do you like to do to get yourself? And I said, and I was like, I love the gym. He goes, when was the last time you went? I said, it's been about 2 years, man. My kid was born. It's been really hard. He goes, go back to the gym, you know. And and honestly, that was the best advice that guy ever gave me, and I did. So all that just kind of all came together, and at that time too, Greg is cheering me on too, uh, and it just all came together, and I started feeling better about myself, getting out, and once I put ink to the page, it was like I was almost scared at first to do it, and then it was like, holy shit, this is a blast, and that's exactly what that book was for me at that point. And then I was all in. I was all in on that book, man, and then, it was like everything else was, at that point, all my life's hardships, were taking a back seat, and then started tearing through those pages, and so my feeling is between Angel and between Clayton Crane, who did the whole second half of that book.
Hmm.
To this day, I think that's my best work ever, ever. In any incarnation with any other penciler, any other book I was on, it was my peak as a and I don't mean was I on bigger books? Yeah, I was on bigger books, but it was my peak as an artist. For me was that book.
I
So
I will say that book, and I've read all the Kiss comics that have maybe not all of them now, but up until that point, I had read all the Kiss comics. The first two Marvel ones made a huge impact on me as a kid,
yeah,
and
yeah,
but I will say that and this is back when I was, getting my weekly pulls for comics and stuff at the comic store, which I don't do anymore. Um, when I saw that Psycho Circus in the pile, I was like running home to read that one. You know, that was like the best one in the pile. It didn't matter what else was in there. You know.
Man, I just loved Brian's writing in that book. I loved everything about that book. I loved the fact that Brian was a huge Kiss fan, is still Brian Hoagland.
Hmm.
Um, Angel, which I did not know was a Kiss fan, but and if and if he was, he kind of hit it really well. But I mean, if he wasn't, he did his homework because I managed to throw in some Easter eggs here and there in the book. That I would things like Kiss Kiss geeks would geek out on, but he was a master at that. There was so many little inside things that he threw in there, and I go, "How did you know that?" He goes, "All you got to do is read," that kind of thing. And I'm pretty sure he was a Kiss fan, but it was just insane. It was just insane that what everything that went into that book. Um, it was a blast. It really was. It
Yeah.
was a
Anybody
very
that
proud
anybody
moment.
that hasn't read it should go out and find. I don't know what you can find it in. I have this, which I don't.
Yeah. I have that too. And you know what I do in mine? I have post-its in there to show you how much of that book is my work. And over 2/3 of the depth of that book is Kiss Psycho Circus. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
it's definitely the best stuff. You know, I mean, the like I said, the first two Kiss magazines just mean so much to me. You know,
oh yeah, they're awesome.
but
Yeah.
the later stuff, like the Dark Horse stuff, just was a complete miss for me. The more recent stuff that I had picked up, I was just like, eh. But this
So
one,
I'm told, I don't know this for a fact, but Gene Simmons always wanted Kiss to be like the Fantastic Four.
yeah,
A little bit what like Stan Lee style writing. That kind of thing. I don't know how fond he really was of the storylines in the Psycho Circus. I can't say, but I could tell you. I think in pretty much certainty that he wanted that to go in a different direction. Because I remember that from the first issue, and I remember that Fantastic Four statement. I remember him wanting these a little bit more superhero-y, campy kind of stories, which he got, I think, out of the Dark Horse
yeah,
and
I
some of that
agree.
other stuff.
I agree.
So, but Todd was great. Todd was in our corner with that book, and he just said, "You got to trust the guys doing the book. You got to trust the talent. Let them do the book." And pretty much, he probably said, "I promise you, they'll succeed for you."
Yeah,
So
you'll make
yeah,
some money, and
yeah,
we know Gene loves money, so
yeah, right. Yeah.
that's awesome. Oh,
Yeah,
right. We are almost at an hour and a half now.
really. Well, half hour that was me trying to get back online. So
If you could believe it, I could keep going. If you want to start wrapping it up, we can start wrapping it up. It's completely up to you.
I'm okay. I mean, if you got any other questions,
Yeah. Well,
uh,
let's do a brief touch on music and history, and then we'll go to
sure.
the I don't even know. I don't even have a name for the segment yet. But when we talk about some things that influenced your life or things that you like to go
Okay.
back to, whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
yep. Go ahead.
Go. No. No. Go ahead. No.
No,
I
I was
was
just
just.
gonna say, just yeah, go ahead and talk about whatever the music and how you ended up with the Kiss tribute band and all that.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. So. Um. Yeah. It's so funny. So I've been in some iteration or another. Started out at least probably 15 years ago doing a Kiss tribute thing with my cousins, three brothers and a buddy. So we had a lead. One of my cousins was the lead singer, okay, and the other one played bass, and the other one played lead guitar, and our friend played the rhythm guitar. and we learned probably 20, 30 songs, and we would go to open mics and take over open mics. And we never played out well, actually, that's a lie. We played out twice as an entity. That wasn't an open mic. We actually had events, so to speak. But uh, no dress up. There was no. We'd wear Kiss t-shirts, that kind of thing. There was nothing crazy about that, right? So that was the first thing. Then about 10 years ago,
Did you have a name for that band or?
yeah, it was called Unmasked. Yeah, we called it Unmasked. And that
Okay.
was it, right?
That's
Yeah, and yeah. So I have on my. You can see those videos of one of our shows, one of our only two shows, on my YouTube channel. It's just a Kevin Conrad YouTube channel. I'll try to get you that link at some point if you're interested. I've got stuff that I did, the band I was in with Greg called Shaman back in 88, 89. That's all up there too. We played out a number of times there. So I have like two full shows, I think, on there. My band with my cousins. And then I briefly was in an Ace Frehley tribute with Vinny on bass, who is Argene in History, and Jason Taft as Ace. And it was all non-makeup. Had 2 or 3 rehearsals with them, and and it was going okay, but Vinny gave me the choice. He goes, "Would you rather be in an Ace Frehley tribute band or a Kiss tribute band?" I said, "Well, just busting my ass there and all these Anton Fig friggin' things." And I said, but in all honesty, Kiss is Kiss, Ace is Kiss, and whatever. But I have more opportunities to play more Kiss songs and Kiss tribute. And he goes, "Well, I'm in this Kiss tribute with this other guy, Dave Barito, and we're looking for a drummer for that." And so I jumped ship and I went to this other one, which eventually became Revenge. That morphed into Kiss Revenge, which was our non-makeup Kiss tribute, full non 80s. We dressed like them, and we started to really gain some steam with that, and we played out quite often, and started gaining a decent crowd, and then 5 years ago, Vinny, our bass player, who has had history since 1996. He's had, I don't know how many dozens of players in the band, but he was always a constant in the band. And he wanted to resurrect history, full makeup, with our non-makeup Paul and Revenge, Dave Barito as Paul. Jason Taft as Ace, Vinny as Gene, and then he asked me if I'd be interested in doing it and, putting the makeup on. And I said, I will do it on one condition. He goes, "Well, what's that?" He goes, "I want to be Eric Carr. I don't want to be, nothing against Peter, but I want to be Eric Carr." He said, "Yeah, man, whatever you want, that's what you want." And so that was it. So for the first 3.5 years or 4 years of the band, it was me as Eric Carr on the drums, and then he had the bright idea, to ask me how I'd feel about splitting the set with a Peter Criss. So, and it's like, how can I say no? And first off, it's his band. I was like, it's like, look, man, that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. I'm okay with that. Will I miss playing a whole show? Yeah, I'll miss playing a whole show, but it's actually a pretty brilliant idea because there's not another Kiss tribute band in the nation that has that act of, half the show is a Peter Criss and half the show is Eric Carr, so
That's awesome.
and so Dave, our Paul, the man is a savant when it comes to, he's a drummer as well as a guitarist, as well as a singer, as well as a great bass player. He could play freaking anything, man. And so Dave moved from Paul to Peter. So he's our Peter Chris now in the band, and so now we bring in Vinny's other one of the guys who used to play Paul back in the '90s, maybe the early 2000s. Chris Giordano. He's a great Paul Stanley. The only problem is he lives in Philadelphia, so he has to drive up for our shows, and we rarely ever really get to do a real rehearsal with him once in a while. But he's starting to get his his sea legs back, where he could, basically just come to the show and plug it in and kicking ass. So we've had some musical chairs as far as musical musicians, I should say. Changing of the guard many times. We've had like 5 Ace Frehleys in the 5 years I've been in the band. 3 Paul Stanleys. 1, 2, 3, 4 Gene Simmons. No lie, because Vinny went from Gene to playing Ace for a period of time, so he was hiring out Gene Simmons for those things too. So, but guess what? There's only been one Eric for this entire time.
There you go.
So, yeah.
So is Vinny back to being Gene now, or
he is? Yeah.
Okay.
It's right now. It's Vinny as Gene, Jay as Ace, Chris Giordano as Paul, and me, of course, as Eric, and then Dave is Peter. And right now we got I think 6 or 7 gigs lined up for the year. Our first one being April 24th is our first show of the year in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And
Springfield.
Yes, I know. And we're playing Springfield Civic Center. No, we're not. No. But so then we're playing locally July 3rd at the Strand Theater. It's about as local as we get. And yes, Jim, I will. Oh, not the band. You'll see me. You might see Vinny. Vinny might come dressed up. Yeah. Vinny keeps trying to tell me, he said, you got to go to the show in full makeup and stuff. I don't want to do that. Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It must be tough to draw in that, I would think.
Yeah, not so much. I mean, it's if I sweat and the makeup, it's the page, but
a little extra.
But, it's just
no
here's the thing about it that as you see, I have a beard, and I like having a beard, and I hate having to shave my beard. So just to put makeup on for a comic convention, I'm not shaving my beard, man. I'm sorry, I'm not doing it. I will do it for the band. Take one for the team, and I'll shave it. And,
you don't want to go Cesar Romero on it, and
yeah, I know, right? Yeah, exactly. No. Right. Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, the band's great.
Yeah. I've seen you at least twice. I want to say I've seen you 3 times now, but I'm trying to remember. But the first time was at the Scottycoke Fair. This blew my mind. Right. So I watched the band. I'm like, oh, the band's pretty good. That drummer is amazing. And I had no clue it was you. And then you were talking at your table to somebody. Oh, yeah, we're doing this. I'm like,
I remember that.
That was you.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. Yeah. That was crazy. Did you see was it the daytime show you saw, or was it the nighttime show?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I just happened to be there with my family, and I'm like, oh, this is
okay.
Awesome.
Oh man, the nighttime show was insane. There had to be a couple thousand people out in front, at that time, and it was a blast. It really was.
Was the night show at the same place as the day one?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was the same place. Yeah. We did one at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and another one at 8 at night or something like that. So we had to stay in makeup for that entire time, in between the 2 shows. So, it was
Were you walking
It
around
was
the bar in
hot.
the makeup?
Yes, yes. Oh my God. Yeah, you can't get 2 feet without somebody asking you for photos. It's great. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm just picturing you trying to eat like a sausage and peppers on a roll with the
Yeah,
makeup
no,
on.
that did not happen. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you bring a blender and throw it in a blender and drink it with a straw.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Well, at the end of the show, and I could sit here for the rest of the night probably and talk, but at the end of the show, I just have guys talk about like some things that either music, movies, or comics that inspire them, or things maybe they go back to, or whatever. Nothing brain burning, just just some fun. So I'm gonna bring up just
So yeah.
some graphics to look at.
Okay.
uh, and you can speak to it.
Oh, I'm gonna have to put my glasses on. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you mentioned Black Diamond, which was on Kiss's
Yeah.
first album.
Yes. Yeah, man. Shows or songs that inspired me is like from like a musician standpoint, and I'm going back and I'm not taking anything away from like, because ultimately my all-time favorite song is Creatures of the Night, right? Off of Creatures of the Night. And, but prior to that, like what inspired me as a drummer and as a wannabe singer was Peter Criss with Black Diamond and, in the, Off of Kiss Alive. And I sort of do like an amalgamation of that song, and yes, we have a Peter Criss in the band, but guess who sings Black Diamond? That was another one of my things. If you want to bring a Peter in, that's fine. He can have any Kiss song in the catalog except for Black Diamond. That's mine.
You
you
know?
know, and David's completely cool with it because he and I are buddies, and that is just such an epic song. And for Kiss, everybody looks at a lot of Kiss's stuff is not brain cell surgery, man. It's it's pretty simple, four on the floor, rock, goofy lyrics, lots of the times, that kind of stuff. But Black Diamond is such an epic song, and it's got changes in it, these crazy fills, and Peter Criss's voice on that, the soul that he's got in that thing, and it's just, to me, is probably one of their best songs that they ever created. And and we're doing, so I do like live, I do an amalgamation of Peter and Eric Carr, and as far as how I play it, and we do the Eric Carr ending, like from like Rio and Animalized live uncensored, and that, instead of just that that big crescendo of going faster and faster until you just crash down on the song. So it's very epic, with that ending, the newer ending. So yeah, man, that song is probably, it's right up there. It was one of my favorite systems.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will agree. I mean, like I've already talked about how kind of important this album is to me, but just because it was my first. But talk about an uninspired back cover,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know it, right? Yeah, that is true. However, the front cover, they were pretty inspired with Peter's makeup.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're a Kiss fan, you know where that came from. But yeah,
Yeah, they kind of
pretty nice.
they got rid of the whiskers on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they hired a makeup artist to do their makeup, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, and this person thought that Peter should look like that.
Yeah.
And so, whereas he was already established with the wide whiskers and stuff, but whatever, it is what it is. But it's an iconic cover though, really. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
And at least Paul moved on from the mask, the bandit mask.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
All right. Grand
I
Funk,
give my glass of Grand Funk, man.
I'm your captain. And
I'm your captain.
I had to listen to this because I wasn't sure, and then once I heard it, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know this song."
Right?
I didn't
Talk
realize
about
how
another
long that
epic.
song was.
It's a very long song, right? And it has an epicness about it as well. And I've loved this song since I can remember. This is like this song to me. It's like if I'm driving and I'm coming home, or I'm going anywhere and I'm almost at my destination. It's like I'd say seconds or minutes, minutes away from it, and this song comes on, I keep going, and I drive, and I keep driving until the song is over, man. It's just such a good tune. You know, they're one of my favorite bands, and it just has such a great story, inside the lyrics. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's a good tune.
yeah.
Grand Funk. Now, maybe you know this. What's the deal with the name Grand Funk, and then it was Grand Funk Railroad, or was it Grand Funk Railroad first, and then?
Honestly, man, I don't know. Here I say they're one of my favorite bands, and I always said Grand Funk Railroad.
Okay, that's how I
And
always knew
then
it too.
yeah, and then it's like in short sometimes, like you would say Grand Funk.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like
you know,
Jefferson Airplane and Jefferson Starship, right?
yeah, probably stuff like that. Yeah, yeah.
All right. And then Sammy Hagar, Eagles
All
Flight.
right, yeah. So
I
I
had not
am
heard this one
a.
either.
You never heard it?
Nope, not until today. This is the first time.
Okay, yeah. I am a sap when it comes to songs about animals and nature, and like John Denver, Colorado, Rocky Mountain High, all that kind of stuff. There was a series back in the day, TV series called Grizzly Adams,
Yep.
and and that's bringing that song, that opening song on there, just made me want to just move out to the mountains and not come back. That kind of thing. I am a city boy who thinks he can survive in nature, and that type of thing, right? I'm a big time animal lover, advocate, that kind of thing. And again, this song has an epicness about it that is just gets me, man. It just gets me in the feels every time I hear it, And I got to see Sammy last summer at SPAC, like with Michael Anthony and at that time it was Jason Bonham, I believe. I think it was Jason Bonham on drums
Mhm.
and Joe Satriani, and it hit me. I did not expect that. I didn't know he played this song live, and God damn it! I apologize, but if I never would have guessed in a million years, but I got emotional. I didn't balls out cry, but it just swelled up in me, man, when he was singing the song. I don't know what it is, man. There's something about that song. I just
Yeah.
absolutely love it. Yeah, yeah,
Awesome. Yeah, it's a
yeah.
good tune. I mean, like I said, I didn't hear it. I heard it for the first time today. And I'm listening to it on YouTube, and there's a comment I can see one comment, and it says, "Isn't it funny how whenever they put a super group together, the first guy they call is Sammy Hagar?"
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, this album, Sammy, it's a solo album that Sammy was obligated to do. I think with Geffen Records, that he still had one under the belt that he needed to get done.
I thought.
And he was with. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say I thought I saw something that said that uh, Michael Anthony wanted this song to be a Van Halen song.
Oh, I'm not sure about that. I wasn't sure where you're going to go, but I'm pretty sure Eddie Van Halen plays bass on this entire album.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, because that was part of the making peace with the Van Halen brothers, with him doing the solo album, is he sort of, I think, brought at least Eddie into the fold, for the album. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was the case.
Cool.
Yeah, but I don't know that that's what
Yeah,
you just said. I'm not sure.
yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah.
On to the
Oh,
movies. First King Kong.
yeah, man. again, I don't remember when I was a kid, Thanksgiving, they would play King Kong, Son of Kong, Mighty Joe Young, excuse me, all the classic, movies. This is, without a doubt, my all-time favorite movie. I don't care what the genre, it's this movie. I am a massive King Kong fan, and my love for it started with this. And it's just, again, ahead of its time, even to this day. You got, it's all stop motion, puppets, that type of thing. But there is a charm to it that is completely lost these days with all the CGI stuff.
Yep.
I just loved it. And again, I'm a big animal fan, and I was rooting for the gorilla man right from the beginning. All time favorite movie. Yeah.
Yeah, great movie. Great movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alien.
Well, I would say this was probably I saw this at Mohawk Mall, and it was a 76, maybe. I don't remember the actual year it came out, but I was a teenager, and this is probably one of the best horror movies I've ever seen in my life. You might not think, oh, it's a science fiction. Okay, yeah, it's science fiction, but this has got more suspense. More. I just love how again, just how well done it was, and the fact that you didn't see that right from the first minute of the movie. You did not see that monster or that alien. It was a build up. You see flashes of it until you finally get to see it. And the way they filmed it, it was just a great movie. One of my favorites all time. I remember I was in high school. I know that because what did I do the next day? And I don't know what, it might have been math class or English or something like that. I drew that alien from the best of my recollection from what that alien was. I still have that. It was on lined paper. I got it in a folder somewhere. That alien that I drew, and it's pretty. It was. I don't have a photographic memory, but I mean, it was pretty close to what I remembered seeing in the movie. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You said there was a build up, and man, what a payoff! When you finally saw
Yes.
it. Holy.
Oh
shit.
yeah. Oh, I know. I know it. Yeah. Yeah.
Another good one. All right.
Oh man, the movie I love and I love to hate at the same time. It so, and again, here I keep talking about epic. It was epic in time. It was like 3 hours long, and the extended cuts even longer. Um, Again, I'm all about nature, and I'm not a religious person. I'm the least religious person on the planet, probably. But the whole Native American culture, I can get down with, and yeah. This movie I love so much, but I also walked out of this movie being embarrassed being a white man, and because honestly, I mean, yeah, it's theater, it's it's Hollywood in a sense too, but it really did touch on a lot of stuff that they really didn't teach you in school about what happened back in the day,
Mm.
and I like it for that reason because it reminds me, when you think, when you think you have it so good, and you just remember, well, why do we have it so good? Well, we pretty much came over and nearly committed genocide, pretty much, and it's like. And that's why I just don't feel like, and I don't mean this in any political way, but it's just history, man. It's history. It's what happened, how we're all here, how we all came to be, so,
Yeah.
but it's, yeah.
No, I just movie. You get me thinking too. And it just I think, I find that in my life, the books, the music, the movies, everything's so entwined,
Yeah.
And this makes me think of, Run to the Hills from Iron Maiden, But
Oh
there's
yeah,
also
yeah,
Man of War did a song about Native Americans. Nightwish is another band I love. Another
yeah.
song, so that's just that makes me think of that too. So yeah.
Anthrax.
Anthrax.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah. The
yeah,
Indians. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Great
yeah.
tune.
And then hell, man, even Ted Nugent, the Great White Buffalo.
Great White Buffalo. Yep.
We're probably missing some like
Yeah. He
you
well
know
he did Fred. He did Fred Bear too about
Fred
his
Bear
friend.
too. Yeah,
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 that was
that's
a great
true.
tune.
Yeah,
Great tune.
and then we
All
had
right.
that great rock band Blackfoot. Back in they were popular back in the late '70s. Train
Yep.
Train, Highway Song. That kind of stuff.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. There's a lot of them out there, I guess.
Yeah,
But like I said, it's crazy to me how just I find everything so entwined with me.
yeah, yeah.
So
That's true.
you mentioned Amazing Spider-Man and didn't really give me any specifics. So I threw up some cool Spider-Man covers, and
Oh yeah,
I didn't know which
yeah. Which
era.
era, right?
Yeah,
So that's a Steve Ditko cover.
yeah,
Um, that is such an iconic cover. Steve Ditko was before my time, but
yep.
as far as like collecting comics, but like I said, my buddy's brother was 14 years older. He had all these, so I got we poured over these almost on a daily basis. We were able, flip through. I mean, his brother was long gone and married, and here's all his comics. He didn't give a crap
Wow.
about them. They were all in, like I said, most of them were in pretty bad shape, but they were there, and we got to see all this stuff. And Steve Ditko was way ahead of his time, I think, too, as far as the way he drew. And so, going back and getting some of those issues, my own collection at that time, yeah, it was great. I grew up in the John Romita senior
Mhm.
years,
Yeah,
and loved it. Loved that. And then Ross Andrew took over, and I was pissed off that Ramita wasn't on anymore, and I bought the book anyway. But it was like I always thought Ross Andrew was like a poor man's John Romita. Back at that time, that's what I felt. And then I look back at his stuff now, and it's like, what in the hell was the matter with me, man? Because the guy was a great artist,
yeah.
amazing, amazing artist. Yeah,
I think
yeah,
I felt and feel the same way about him. At the time, it was
yeah.
like, oh, he's all right. And now it's like, yeah, he did some great stuff. I'm a huge
Oh
Steve
yeah,
Ditko fan, though. Um,
yeah. He's great.
um,
Yeah,
but it wasn't all. I think Ditko more when I was younger that I liked it, but I don't think I really got it until I got older, and that
right.
now I love him. But um,
Yeah, yeah. He's amazing. So yeah,
see that one. But I think that's Romita.
it looks like Ramita. The legs on Spider-Man. It's hard to tell because I'm looking on my phone and
Yeah, it's a little
uh,
small. Okay.
yeah, it's small, but it's
I don't know if we can,
yeah,
I don't know
it's
if we
great
can make
though. I
it any
mean,
bigger.
no, it's fine. No, it's fine.
I'm
But
sure I can. I just don't know
oh
on my
yeah,
phone.
that's Gil Kane.
Yep.
Uh,
I love this one.
and oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
The six
yeah,
or the six arm. I guess eight leg Spider Man. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. Right. Yeah, that's great.
Um, and
That was my
then
era collecting.
I I
Oh
put
yeah, the tarantula.
I put this in
Yeah,
because you know how we talked about what our first comic was, and we don't really
yeah,
remember.
yeah.
When push comes to shove, this is what I throw out because this I remember having this when I was very young. So
Right.
so this
That's
is
a great cover too. That's John Romita. That's a
yeah.
beautiful cover. Yeah, yeah. That's awesome.
And I think this is a Gil Kane too.
Yeah, that looks like Gil Kane.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that one.
yeah. So we already talked about this. Like you saw, like three comic books. You asked me like pick like three comic books that inspired me.
Yep.
This, yes, I worked on this, right? But talk about inspiration. And again, like I just repeated what I said earlier, but I believe this was my best work ever on this entire run, and I'm very proud of it. Um, I got paid well for it, but it was, I'm using the term labor of love because, man, all the planets aligned and I was able to do this book. So I was super inspired right from the get go to do this book. And that's why I threw it in there as an
Yeah.
inspiration. You got to work with amazing artists, amazing, colorists and writers and stuff too. So all the way along, there's, it's just a home run, so.
So how did it feel that they used this cover, like the image from the cover for a T-shirt?
It's funny because I've seen more than that piece of artwork, and it's like, hey, you know what? That's great. It's just more exposure. For the book.
Yeah, that's my
Cool
go-to because of that. I have the T-shirt, and I'm just like, I love this.
Yeah. And the cool thing about the way that, and I can't remember his name. The name slips my mind right now, but it's right on the tip of my tongue. The graphic designer that would take our artwork and do something exactly what you see there, cut it up in this instance, and create this really, really cool graphic, with the artwork. And I could just, I mean, like if you pulled out that Kiss Omnibus, you look on the inside jacket of one of those issues, you give Ben Templesmith. Ben Templesmith. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Yeah, that did a lot of the graphics behind the stuff. It's very, very cool stuff.
Yeah.
With our artwork, you would change things up. You wouldn't physically touch the artwork, but you would do stuff like this just to make it look very cool. Yeah.
All right. Anything else about inspiring things?
So yeah, the list is very long. I can give you a couple dozen names of artists that inspired me over the time, and these are pencilers, painters, more so than inkers, but some of my favorite inkers, Claus Janson, Tom Palmer, Joe Stinnott, growing up. Some of the other guys, who are great artists in their own right, Ernie Chan and Pablo Marcos, all those types of Rudy Nebres, inkers, pencilers, artists, around. Growing up in comics, I was always about the stuff that was based closer in reality. As far as it's all comics book, it's all superheroes. But Neil Adams, Bernie Wrightson, a little bit more comic booky styles like Sal Buscema, John Romita. John Buscema was a huge influence. Mike Ploog, Gil Kane, Frank Frazetta. I do a show in Ken Kelly, of course.
Kelly.
The Kiss, who I got to meet and have lunch with or dinner with, at one of the shows once, and that was amazing because of a very good friend of mine that was able to happen, and I got his autograph on the Kiss Destroyer Resurrected artwork with a little thing I have on my wall over behind me here, on my right shoulder. He's the only artist I ever geeked out with. Was Ken Kelly. I've met a lot of big artists, and I just didn't geek out like I did with Ken. I don't know. Frazetta, was going back to Frank. Just the quintessential master illustrator. No bones about it. Painter. I do a show, I started to say, in Phillipsburg, Pennsylvania, the day before Mother's Day, every May. And I'm going again. And every year, it's what I discovered is that it's about a 30-minute drive to the Frank Frazetta Museum in Pennsylvania, right over the border, Stroudsburg. And I go there every year. I stay the night. in Phillipsburg, and the next Sunday morning on Mother's Day, I drive out to Stroudsburg and hang out at the museum, and you know, just pour over all that work, that's in there, and just go gaga. Yeah, so it's now it's just become tradition now. So
Yeah,
love it.
I'm sure you see
And I'm
new
always
stuff.
dragging somebody. Yeah, yeah. You see something, even though it's the same. Once in a while they might be able to get another painting in, but it's like you always see something new and something you've seen multiple times. That type of thing. And it's the original artwork. It's on the walls.
Yeah.
And every year I convince somebody, another friend who's at the show, you got to go. You got to go. If you've never been, you got to go. And so I've turned some people on to the museum.
Where is it located?
It's in Stroudsburg, PA. And like I said, the show is in Phillipsburg, New Jersey, which is right near the border between Jersey and Pennsylvania. And the hotel I stay at is right over the border in Pennsylvania. And it's about a 25-minute drive from the hotel to Stroudsburg. So it's on the east side of PA somewhere. I couldn't tell you exactly where though. Yeah.
I get down
it's
that
less
area.
yeah, and ironically, driving home from there, from the hotel, or I mean from the museum to home, it's door to door. It's about a 2-hour, 45-minute drive. I didn't even realize that it was that close. So
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out at some point.
Yes, it's amazing. It really is.
All right. So where can people find you?
So I am on Facebook. I am on Instagram. I am on X. So Kevin Conrad Art. You'll be able to find me on those three platforms. My website is Kevin.
Yeah, and I did post your link a couple of times in the chat, and then it's also in the description, your Instagram and your Facebook and your website. So
yes, and I don't do anything with threads per se, except it's somehow connected, and whatever I post on, I think Instagram goes to threads as well. So
yeah.
But yeah, that's that's it. And my website, kevinconrad.com, which just a place if you don't get to see me at a show, I do sell prints. I can from the website, you can buy them right off the website, and I can ship them out to you. I haven't updated it in a little bit as far as like with artwork, but it's there's some stuff to look at though. It's pretty inclusive.
Yeah, I did have the Jaws piece up there, which was awesome. So
yes, yeah, in the shop. Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, I enjoyed doing that one. Yeah,
that was nice.
Yeah.
All right. So it's up to you. You can hang out if you want to hang on after the show. We can chat for a minute, or
because we got to wait. I have to wait for this to upload anyway. Okay. Once you stop the recording, so before I close the browser. So sure, yeah. All
right, cool. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming. I'm just going to bring it up one more time. I don't know if I'm much of a salesman. I'm just like, I'm growing weary of trying to.
Yeah. Actually, buy this book, everybody, because this book has got my artwork in it. So
I don't even have it up now. I must have closed it out. So
that's all right.
The link's in the description. The link is in the chat. So go over there and grab one. And most importantly, sign up or buy one of these cool Kevin Conrad sketch cards you can get.
I could do more.
One like
that. Right. I can do more.
Mine.
You just you tell me what you want me to draw, and I'll be happy to draw it.
Absolutely. All right. Yep. Take care, everybody.
Hey, thank you, man. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for being here. Had a blast.
Yeah, absolutely.